A stunt double blatantly appearing in the scene. A crew member showing up where they shouldn't. Things that change places from one moment to the next. And a crazy dead guy who keeps changing positions.
Today, you'll see all the mistakes from the movie Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire.
Hey there, wizards. How's it going?
This episode is for those who like to spot mistakes in movies. Those people who watch and notice an error here and there. Because we're going to look at 75 mistakes in the movie Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire. Our first mistake occurs right in the opening scene of the movie. Even when Frank Bryce is heating up water to make some tea. When he lights the fire, you can see when he puts the kettle on. You can see that on the left side, there's a brown teapot with flowers, and the lid of the teapot is already there next to it. The teapot is already open. Then, Frank picks up the teapot and removes the lid, but it was already open and shouldn't have been closed. Another mistake in this scene is when Frank Bryce looks at the Riddle house and sees that the window is lit, that the light is on there, and then he decides to investigate. But if you look closely, he looks once and then looks again. You know what I mean? He looked the first time and looked again to see what was happening, to make sure, and then he does this. But the light turning on happens after he looked. He looks first and is surprised first, and the light turns on afterwards.
It doesn't make sense. The light should be on when he looks, since that's what makes him check again.
Another mistake happens when Frank is going to the Riddle's house. He's entering there.
Before going upstairs, he switches his cane to the other hand.
He's holding the flashlight and the keys in his left hand, and the cane in his right hand. And then, when he's about to go up the stairs, he puts the cane in his left hand. But when he enters the house, he's holding the cane in his right hand again. This mistake here is exclusively the fault of the voice actor, of Voldemort here in Brazil, when he's in his non-human form.
Because instead of saying the spell Avada Kedavra, he says Avada Kedavra. Avada Kedavra. He got it mixed up, and they let this mistake slip through in post-production. So the spell ended up as Avada Kedavra instead of Avada Kedavra. When Hermione goes to wake up Ron, she puts a candle on a little table next to his bed. And notice that she puts the candle at a distance on the little table, far from the edge. When the angle changes, the candle is on the edge. Another mistake also occurs in this scene. Notice that when she sets down the candle, Ron's arms are in one position. His arm is stretched off the bed while the other rests by his side. But when the scene changes, the candle's angle changes too. There, Ron already has his hands under the pillow, and the other arm, which was on the side, is now higher up. Some might ask, couldn't he have moved, Kako? But in the scene, no. Everything happens too quickly, but they're actually two different scenes that were put together to look like one. That's a continuity error. While Arthur walks with Weasley, Rel, and Hermione toward Amos Diggory, who's waiting under a tree, you can see the whole trunk of the tree. You can see the branch above, and there's nothing there. But then, when the camera zooms in, Cedrico jumps and appears there, right? He just jumps down from the branch above, which we saw earlier was empty. Where was Cedrico? When they enter the tent, there at the Quidditch World Cup camp, Fred and Jorge put their feet on the table. Arthur tells them to remove their feet from the table, and then they repeat, taking their feet off the table. Yeah, get out of the kitchen, Ron. Taking their feet off the table. Taking their feet off the table. But when they say that, their mouths aren't moving. They're not saying anything. It was an overdubbed audio. Taking feet off Ron. Feet off the table. Feet off the table. The next mistake happens when Fred and George put the Irish flag on Ron's back. They're in the tent when they're messing around with Ron, right? About Crumb there? And then Ron takes off the flag. But then, in the next cut, when Ginny says, "I think you're in love, Ron," it shows him taking off the flag again. Like, he takes off the flag twice in a row. On the Hogwarts Express, Harry writes a letter to Sirius Black. And notice that while he's writing, his handwriting is really thick, and the leg of the K is almost closed. But when the scene changes and the letter is in Hedwig's beak, the handwriting is much thinner and the leg of the K is completely different. When the Beauxbatons delegation arrives at Hogwarts in the flying carriage, students rush over, thrilled and excited. And when the carriage is landing, it's at the bottom. The students are looking in completely different directions. While Harry, Ron, Hermione, Fred, and George are looking down here,
The others are still looking up. That's obvious because it's a computer-generated imagery carriage, right? Next time, put a real flying carriage in the series, for example. That way, there won't be any mistakes like this, you know?
The boys are all looking in different directions. In the scene where Filch comes running in to talk to Dumbledore, right?
The schools there are waiting to come in. You can notice that he passes by Seamus and by Ron, and a girl is sitting next to Ron. When the scene changes, Filch passes Ron again, and Harry magically appears between the girl and Ron. You can tell they're different scenes, because first, Filch passes by while Ron is sitting up, but the next time, Ron is leaning on the table before sitting up. They showed Filch passing by the same people twice. Technically, it was the same group, right?
Harry wasn't in the previous scene. When Filch is talking, there are a lot of mistakes here, okay?
I'll tell you right now, this part has a lot of mistakes. When Filch is talking to Dumbledore, he's talking to Dumbledore. There, kind of. In his ear, you can see in the background that the person in the scene is Barto Crouch Sr.'s stunt double, not the main actor. The difference is pretty big. When Fleur Delacour and her sister come in, introducing themselves and doing a little ballet move, you can see they're not the main actresses. The ballerina is the most obvious one. It's not the actress who plays Fleur there. When she turns, her face looks completely different. Then, when the angle changes to a close-up, it only shows Fleur bowing, right?
There they are, bowing with her sister. You can see they're very different actresses, especially the one playing Fleur's sister.
When they're doing the movements, you can tell it's a much older actress because she's much bigger than the little girl. This scene shows the teacher's table, where Karkaroff first appears. He sniffs the liquid in the pitcher and serves it to Snape. But in the next cut, when it shows Madame Maxime, you can see that Karkaroff is serving Snape again. When Hagrid pokes Flitwick's hand, notice the height Hagrid is looking at, that the actor, Rob Coltrane, is looking at. He should be looking at Flitwick, but since these scenes are filmed separately, because of the difference in scale, right? To make Hagrid look bigger, they film him separately with a green screen, so the scene's marking and outcome were different.
And it was noticeable, because when Garth pokes Flitwick's hand, Flitwick screams there and calls Hagrid an idiot.
Hagrid is looking at him, but Flitwick, who is below, is looking up, making their positions look very different. Neville is sitting next to Hermione. Look closely. He's sitting next to Hermione, and they're facing Harry. However, when Dumbledore starts talking about the Goblet of Fire, Neville is sitting on the same side as Harry, and now next to Dean, who wasn't even in the scene before.
And Seamus, who was next to Ron before, is now sitting on the other side, facing him at the moment when Barty Crouch Sr. is walking to the front there to talk about the tournament rules. Alan Rickman must have really needed to go to the bathroom because that guy over there isn't him.
You can see that the person dressed as Snape there isn't Alan Rickman. It's a stand-in, a different person.
In the next cut, Alan Rickman reappears. He left briefly for the bathroom and returned quickly.
And it seems like something didn't sit well at the actors' dinner, because Karkaroff also wasn't the main actor in this scene.
You can tell he looks different. Just by looking, you see it's not the same actor. The actor for Karkaroff must have gone to the bathroom too. I picture the movie crew thinking, man...
Use the stunt double. The scene is brief and in the background so no one will notice.
In the Defense Against the Dark Arts class, Alastair Moody writes his name on the blackboard there. And pay close attention to how the letter M pulls a little leg that connects with the letter O. With the first letter O, did you notice?
Well, now look in the next cut how this writing is different. The little leg of the M no longer connects with the letter O. Clearly, it was a different writing, recorded at another time.
Also in this scene, when Moody goes to write unforgivable, he adds an extra letter to the word. And instead of writing unforgivable, he writes unforgivable. And then, later, in the cut, you see the blackboard, with part of it erased. They just went, hey, that's wrong, erase it, and then they just left it there. They didn't rewrite it. It just stayed like that. After they leave the Defense Against the Dark Arts classroom, there's that moment when Neville is kind of upset, right? Because of everything he saw there, for having witnessed the Cruciatus curse. Right there, in the classroom. Before they show it, there's a scene of them leaving the classroom.
And they take that spiral staircase, and then they're going down and it shows the staircase from above.
And we can see Ron and Harry there, on the lower staircase. On the second flight, down there.
See how Ron is on the left and Harry is on the right? We can tell by their hair colors, right?
Ron has red hair and Harry has black hair.
But then, when it cuts to the front view, they're switched. Ron is now on the right and Harry on the left. You think, oh, Kako, they must have switched sides then, right? They definitely did.
But the problem is that this scene isn't from Goblet of Fire. That previous scene was reused from Prisoner of Azkaban.
When I wrote the script and noticed them switching places, I thought, man, this scene is very similar. I've seen this scene before, and then I was like, of course I've seen it before. I've watched this movie many times, but it felt like I'd already seen it in another Harry Potter. When I read Prisoner of Azkaban, the scene where he leaves divination after Hermione slaps the crystal ball is identical. They reused it and just put another filter on it, and that's it. Hey, let's reuse the scene. Why not? No one will notice while the students organize in the Great Hall for the Goblet of Fire selection. You can see that Fred or George, I don't know, whoever sits next to Seamus, near Harry, Hermione, and Ron.
But in the next cut, when Dumbledore tells them to sit, Fred and George are together on the other side.
Then, when it cuts again, Fred or George is already back by Seamus.
When Harry is chosen by the Goblet of Fire, Ron stands behind him, scratching his head and looking down.
Then, when the scene shifts to Harry being chosen, Ron's expression changes completely.
He looks with that face like, wow, what a traitor. But before he didn't have that look. Like, when Harry is chosen, he didn't have that expression.
Definitely, his expression is completely different. When Dumbledore calmly strangles Harry, asking if he put his name in the Goblet of Fire, you can see that he comes in with his right hand on Harry's right shoulder, calmly strangling Harry. Dumbledore's left hand is down, but then, when the scene changes and shows Harry from behind, Dumbledore's left hand is on Harry's left shoulder.
In the scene where Harry and Ron briefly argue in the dormitory,
you can see that Harry's hair is definitely shorter than it was in the previous scene, and then it will be in the next scene.
It's not surprising that Harry went to the barber since it occurs at the same time.
The scene happens simultaneously. Harry is chosen, goes to the trophy room, and appears with long hair.
After the trophy room, he goes to the dormitory and has that argument with Ron.
So, like, his hair was much shorter. When Harry goes to bed there after arguing with Ron, you can see his parents' portrait. The photo is completely still when it should be moving. It's static, not just people standing still.
At the owlery, Harry gets a letter from Sirius and uses his right hand to remove and discard the string.
But in the next shot, when he's bending down with the letter, the string is in his left hand. Harry's glasses are lensless in several scenes. You might say, Kako, that's not a mistake, but it is since other scenes clearly show lenses. They added the lenses with computer graphics so there wouldn't be any reflection during filming. And then, in moments when the reflection was supposed to appear, for example, when he's talking to Sirius in the fireplace, he's in front of the fire.
His glasses should show a reflection, but they don't. That's a mistake. So much so that later, as he lies by the fireplace after Cho Chang rejects his invitation to the ball.
She refuses. He's lying there with the golden egg, looking depressed, and the fireplace reflects in his glasses. It's a mistake. When Harry reads the Daily Prophet with Rita Skeeter's article, his photo moves. After he throws the paper in the fireplace, the photo becomes still. After Moody turns Draco into a ferret as punishment, Draco threatens to tell his father, and then Moody runs after him, right? Notice that before Draco speaks, Moody has his arms crossed. His staff stands straight by his side. Then, after Draco says his father will hear about this, he runs after him. The staff is tilted, but in the next cut showing him running after Draco from another angle, it's straight again. Before the first task, when they're in that tent and Filch fires the cannon too early, you see that Crumb and Karkaroff duck, and then they're getting up after that. But when the scene cuts and shows Cedric, Crumb and Karkaroff are behind him, standing completely upright.
Far from their original spot in the center, they got up and later stood behind Cedric, completely upright as if nothing had happened.
Reminder, I'll always explain this since some people complain.
Oh, they couldn't have changed places. They could have, but the thing is, the scene is happening at the same moment right there. He couldn't just appear elsewhere with a changed angle since the scene happens at the same time.
That happens because it was filmed at different times and the mistake happened during editing.
In the first task, at the moment when Harry is about to enter the arena,
when he takes the first step, it's clear that's the stunt double, not Daniel Radcliffe. The scene is edited quickly. The stunt double starts, Then it cuts to Daniel Radcliffe himself. That's why it's almost impossible to notice. It's almost impossible to notice, but we notice it here. When Harry passes by with the broom between the teachers' stands, you can see that all of them look ahead. All of them.
Rita Skeeter looks okay. She's not a teacher, right?
But Rita Skeeter, Moody, and Dumbledore look ahead. Minerva, everyone looks ahead because the broom is computer-generated, right?
I say, just hire a kid who can actually fly to ride a real flying broom. Then we won't have these problems.
They avoid Harry before he even reaches the stands. Then the dragon comes and swings its tail, right?
It breaks, knocks people down. And Minerva gets knocked down, right, poor thing, along with Snape, poor old lady, getting knocked down there. But before them, after the dragon breaks it, you can see from afar that Minerva is already getting up.
But then in the cut, it shows her and Snape lying there, and getting up too, you know? But before, it had already shown her getting up. When the Rabicornio hits Harry, knocks him off his broom, and he's falling there on the roof. You see that he screams, screams, screams. But his mouth doesn't move. His mouth stays shut. Nothing comes out. He's screaming, but no sound escapes.
Because the audio was dubbed, recorded separately, and added on top.
After the task, Harry's arm is in a sling because the dragon injured his shoulder, right? We see that at breakfast, when he spills his juice, when Cho smiles at him.
Before that, when he leaves the task and goes to the common room, he's fine, opening the golden egg as everyone celebrates and carries him around.
His arm is doing just fine, right?
His arm is doing just fine. There's no problem. He's got it in a sling, but it's nothing. Then later he goes there, and he's got the sling on, with his arm supported. While Hermione reads the Daily Prophet and Rita Skeeter's article, Harry is drooling over the pumpkin juice. You can see that the plate to the right of Hermione, on the left side of the screen, has food leftovers, and the cutlery is crossed in the center. But when the scene changes, the plate is farther from Hermione and the cutlery is placed on each side, and the plate is completely clean. Magic, magic, it's not magic, it's a mistake. In the scene where Minerva is talking about the dance, the Yule Ball, when she says the classic line about babbling, bumbling band of baboons. And Ron teases the girl who's desperate to go to the bathroom.
He says, something's about to blossom from Heloise Midian, and it's not a swan.
When she's shown for the first time, she's between two girls there. A girl with darker skin on the left side of the screen, which is Heloise's right side, and another girl next to her with lighter skin.
And then, when it changes, when it shows the scene closer up,
the lighter-skinned girl is on the left of the screen, Heloise is right, where the darker-skinned girl was, with another girl beside her.
It changes completely as the scene returns and shows her back in the original position. When Harry and Ron look at Neville there in the dormitory, practicing the dance, you can see that Harry's hair, again, is shorter than it was in the previous scene.
Then would it be in the next scene?
When Fred throws a note to Ron, there, about getting a date, you can see that when Ron picks up the note, it's written on the top lines of the paper, and it has 4 lines, right?
There are 1, 2, 3, 4 lines on the top lines of the paper. But when Ron looks at the note and the camera zooms in, you see the shot is close, with only 3 lines of writing centered on the paper. When Snape hits Ron and Harry with the notebook, Ron has his hand open, signaling Hermione to dance. Like, you can go with us, right? Since you're a girl, do you see that Ron has his hand open? But when Snape hits, the angle changes.
Ron now has his hand closed around the pencil, which he didn't before.
Before entering the Great Hall at the Yule Ball, the champions line up. And notice that Fleur Delacour is wearing a shawl. There's a shawl that's part of her outfit there. But when she enters, she's simply without the shawl.
It vanished, disappeared. Magic! When the band The Weird Sisters is there rocking out. In the rock and roll scene, Krebs is leaning on Crumb, jumping like, wow, rock, man.
Hermione isn't in the scene, but when it cuts to Crumb, he's dancing with her?
And Krebs, who had his hand on his shoulder, disappeared. Suddenly he vanished.
The changes in position are a problem in this movie. Like, its continuity has several little mistakes.
Because when Hermione is also crying, sad, there on the stairs, there's a girl sitting in the background. There are 3 girls, right?
The one in the middle cries, first turning her head one way, then the other as Hermione lowers herself. Understand? Like, at the same moment, you know? At the same moment. It looks like a hard Instagram cut, man. Fred and Angelina are dancing there, that romantic song, right? At the end of the ball. And you can see that they're practically in the center of the screen, right? They're between Neville and Gina and Simus and his date there. Then you notice Hagrid and Madame Maxime dancing in the background, right?
But then, when the scene changes and shows Hagrid and Madame Maxime, Fred and Angelina are in a completely different spot and are behind them.
Harry goes to sleep after the ball and has a nightmare, right? But the transition in this scene is really cool. A raven flies in and lands on the window right next to Harry's bed, which is very close. And then, maybe you ask yourself, dude, what's the problem? Oh, a raven doesn't just land on the window like that. Is that the mistake? No, that's not the mistake. The mistake is that Harry's bed wasn't previously by the window.
Every time it was shown before, it was far from the window.
The window, which is near Harry's bed, had at least one more bed between them before.
It was between Ron's and Harry's beds. But in this scene, Harry's bed is right next to the window. When Neville returns from the winter ball, he's really proud and cheerful, right?
He's happy. He's got a little shoe hanging. And notice the shoe. At first, they're touching, right?
His heels are touching, and his collar has the tip folded down. But in the next cut, the shoes have the heels apart and the collar has the tip up. In the scene where Harry goes to put the golden egg in the bathtub, there are also several little mistakes.
Notice that when he puts it down, he takes off his robe and leaves it tossed right behind him.
But then, when the scene switches to Myrtle and then goes back to Harry, the robe is much farther from where he had left it. It's not behind his back anymore. It's now on the right, or the screen's left, but closer to Harry's right.
And then, when the camera goes back to Myrtle and then back to Harry again, the robe is back in the place it was originally.
Besides the position, it sometimes looks messy and other times neatly folded.
Magic, man. Another thing that changes a lot from one scene to another and then goes back to how it was before is Harry's hair.
After he gets out of the bathtub, when he lifts his face out of the water,
you see him lift his hair on the side. It's straight and flat. Then the scene shifts to another angle.
His hair is sticking up. Then, after it changes again, his hair is down.
After it changes, his hair goes back up. And after it changes again, his hair is down again. They can't make up their minds.
In the second task, when Krum and Hermione come up to the surface,
in the background, Fleur's dry hair is blowing and swaying in the wind.
In the next scene showing Fleur up close, her hair is soaked, completely different from before. When Ron and Gabrielle make it back to the surface in time, Nigel celebrates. And he's next to Draco. You see Draco slap the boy and pull down his cap. When Harry ties with Cedric, Draco finishes second. The scene repeats. Draco slaps again, just like before. Put it side by side, Eric. The scenes occur simultaneously. They show different moments but are essentially the same scene. He looks at Draco, celebrates. Draco slaps him. In the other one, it's the same thing. He celebrates, looks at Draco. Draco slaps him, pulls down his hood.
It's the same scene. You can put them side by side, and you'll see them happening at the same time. They're identical, just recorded by different cameras. When Harry comes out of the water, right? He's all messed up, freezing cold.
Seamus hands him a towel and tells Dino, get another towel for him. Dino tries to act casual as he goes to get it. Did that happen with you too? Get another towel for him.
But when the scene returns to Harry, Dino is still there, crouched as if he never left.
In that scene, Seamus also puts the towel on Harry's back. Then Hermione comes over, removes her towel and puts it on Harry, who already had a second towel. Seamus's towel on him vanished, and Hermione put a towel on him. The scene shifts. Hermione has the towel back on and puts it on Harry again. What a mess, man. The person who edited this movie, man, they really didn't pay attention to these details.
Maybe they thought no one will notice, but we did.
When Dumbledore says Cedric is first, watch Alastair Moody right then. That's not Brendan Gleeson, no way. It's not the main actor who plays Moody. It's his stunt double. After Harry falls into the Pensieve, wow, he hit the ground. Wow, that must have hurt his tailbone since he hit the wooden floor hard. But it probably didn't really hurt, right? But if it were real life, it would hurt a lot. He's sitting there. Notice that two women come up behind him and sit down.
But then, when the scene shifts and the hand passes through him
to greet Dumbledore, right there, the two women sit down again, exactly the same way. In this scene, as Karkaroff comes up for the first time, you can see it's not Michael Gambon or Daniel Radcliffe there. For Harry and Dumbledore, those are their stunt doubles. You can clearly see that it's not them, and when Barty Crouch Jr. is revealed there, he gets hit with the spell in the chest and says something like, "Ah, kid, take that, boom." You can tell it's the stunt double taking the fall, right? He just drops. Nothing hits him. It's all special effects. But anyway, it's the stunt double. You can tell it's the stunt double. And it's fine that it's the stunt double, right? Because
it's fine in other scenes too, since stunt doubles are used for many reasons, not just dangerous falls like this. But it was clear the stunt double would do it, right?
After leaving Dumbledore's office, Harry passes by and Snape calls out, accusing him, "You're stealing my stuff, aren't you, you little thief?" Then Harry says, "Sir, I didn't take anything." Poor guy, he really didn't, right?
Then Snape grabs the Veritas serum, and then notice that when he shows his finger for the first time, it's right on top of the bottle, right? Like, near the cap. When the angle shifts, it's in the middle, then returns on top with another change. See? Oh. When Cedrico Diggory is about to enter the maze, before going in, he hugs his father, right? And then he says, "Oh, we'll see each other later." Spoiler, he wouldn't see him. Amos says, "Good luck, my son." When he says good luck, his mouth moves.
But my son is also dubbed over in the editing because when he says my son, his mouth doesn't move.
Good luck, my son. See you later, Dad. When Harry pulls Cedrico inside the maze, he tears the boy's shirt here, on the shoulder. Harry pulls him hard, tears the shirt on the shoulder here, right? And then you see that the tear is right on top. But from another angle, the tear appears in a different spot, more to the front, higher or lower. There. Harry and Cedrico grab the cup. Poor Harry blames himself, right? He basically doomed Cedrico. Cedrico, grab it, you won. Harry, don't take it together. A tie for Hogwarts. Everyone's fine. Come on, let's go. Then Cedrico, yeah, let's go. I'm dead. There you go. You notice that when they arrive. Okay, they grab the cup.
When they arrive, the cup flies off and lands on a small hill where it stays. But then, several times, the cup returns by Cedrico's foot before going back to the little hill.
Then, when it shows the gravestone there, the cup is far away and Cedrico is here, and the whole grave fits between the cup and Cedrico. Then, it's at the boy's foot again. Then, when Harry calls the cup is far away. It's a mess, man. Not to mention that Cedrico is like Weekend at Bernie's. Have you seen that movie, Weekend at Bernie's? You know what I mean?
He keeps moving the body. That's Cedrico, my brother.
The way the dead guy moves in that movie is similar, right? You never see him move, but he's always in a new spot.
First, he dies with his mouth open, right? His mouth is kind of half open, you can see his teeth.
When Voldemort steps on his face and says, "Such a handsome boy," the boy's mouth is closed as he turns his face. It's the world's most active corpse, even changing position. It's not just his mouth closing, if only it were that simple. But then you'll see when Wormtail lifts Harry to tie him to the tombstone. Cedric's head is straight as he lies on the ground, and his arm is slightly to the side. It's like this. His arm is kind of like this. But when Voldemort is being reborn there and the cauldron is on fire, you see that Cedric, his head is to the side.
It's already like this, already turned to the side. And his arm is higher up, it's kind of to the side, and the arm is higher up.
Then, when the Death Eaters arrive there, and Voldemort starts talking to them, you see Cedrico's arm, it's way over there. What's going on? Cedrico, man, stay still, stay quiet, no way. It's like Weekend at Bernie's. Play the music. No way, man. Plus, the cup was way back there then, right? The cup and Cedrico move. When Wormtail, before he cuts his own hand, you can see that he puts Voldemort's wand in his left pocket, with his right hand in his left pocket. And then what does he do? He cuts his hand, right? Right. He cuts his hand there.
And then, when Voldemort asks him for the wand, where does he take the wand from? With his left hand from his right pocket.
Magic. Also, pay attention. When Wormtail goes to rip Harry's shirt, it's already pre-torn. It's like the Hogwarts letters that Walter rips in the first movie. They're already torn. So Harry's shirt is already torn. Then Wormtail does this and it comes off. By the way, when does Voldemort turn Cedric's face? He closed the open mouth with his foot, and the head shifted from side to straight, back to side. When Voldemort turns his face, it goes back straight up after being turned to the side before. Not even after he's dead does this boy stay still, man. When Voldemort goes to touch Harry there, right? He says, "I can touch him now," and bam! Voldemort's sleeve, it slides down like this, right? When he does it, his arm is like this, and the sleeve just slides. It slips down. But then, when it cuts, the scene shows his sleeve again, and it's already up there again, like that. A lot of magic. A lot of magic. Oh, there's another mistake. When Voldemort is coming back, Harry is there screaming. You can see that the screams are completely out of sync with the movement of his mouth. Completely out. When Harry and Voldemort cast their spells there. For this scene, I want to make a quick note here. Well, not a quote, but a parenthesis. I want to make a parenthesis here. For me, this is the best scene in all the Harry Potter movies. Voldemort's return. Don't turn your back on me, Harry Potter. The dubbing here is perfect. I love this scene. Wow, it's going to be so crazy to see it in theaters again after 20 years. Because, right, that Goblet of Fire is coming back to theaters.
November 15th, and you're invited to watch it with me and Diego because we're going to have a subscriber screening. More details coming soon. Follow us on social media.
This scene is perfect, even with the mistakes. So Harry uses Expelliarmus. Voldemort uses Avada Kedavra. Look, you see Harry holding the wand with one hand, then he puts his other hand on it for more strength, right? To make it more powerful. Then the scene cuts, and he's holding it one-handed again. And then, when he puts his hand, you can see it's the same scene, the same way, just shown from different camera angles.
And repeating the movement and scene.
When they come back, Harry comes back doing the funeral service there, right? For Cedric, bringing the body back. Everyone is really shocked there, right? Wow, my God, Cedric died. Oh my God.
And then you see that Neville, he's in a position where he's next to Crumb. He's kind of behind, next to Crumb. But in the next cut, man, the scene leaves Crumb, Neville is here. But in the next cut, it goes to Neville. He's somewhere new, behind a different girl, unrelated to where he was before.
My friend, he completely changed places. He's in two places at the same time. Neville had a powerful time turner. When Moody opens the cabinet like a junkie, searching for more ingredients, potion, powder, and juice as his wears off.
You can see the cameraman in a white shirt, my friend, filming a scene with something reflective. You're crazy, man. Hey, man.
You can see him in a white shirt there, showing up in the lower mirror, here on the right side of the screen.
Now this mistake here, Mono, I think it's so messed up. It's such an ugly mistake. It's so ugly.
I can't take this scene seriously. It just embarrasses me.
When Dumbledore goes to talk to Harry there in the dormitory, look at Harry's hair, Mano. What kind of awful wig did they put on him? They rushed to position him and didn't put the wig on correctly. Harry's got 4 inches. Man, the wig is 2 inches above his own hair.
Do you know who Harry looks like in this scene?
You know that Harry Potter from the movie Epic Movie, where Harry is all old and messed up?
It's the same, man. Put them side by side, Eric. For God's sake, it's the same, man.
How could you do this to the old boy? For God's sake, fix the boy up, man. Fix that wig properly, for God's sake, dude. Look at the boy's wig. How ugly and messed up, my son. Oh my God. And last but not least, the last mistake from Goblet of Fire that I noticed happens right at the end.
You can see that Harry's injury on his cheek has 2 cuts, right? He has 2 cuts. It's shown there. It's really obvious, really clear. But then, when it goes to the scene where they're outside, after the speech in the Great Hall, the injury is all red around it.
And it's just one cut. And it's deeper.
It's the first healing, but in reverse. Harry has this power. It's healing in reverse. His wound, instead of getting better, it gets worse, He heals in reverse, unlike Wolverine. That's it, my wizards. Did you notice any of these mistakes in Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire? Did I leave one out here? Is there any you've seen that I didn't mention? Comment down below so we can know. And I hope you enjoyed this episode. This script took 3. I spent 3 days watching this frame by frame. All day long. I would start in the morning and stop at 11 at night, almost midnight. And I have a feeling the next Order of the Phoenix is going to be tough too.
So, leave your like, comment, share. Thanks.
See you next episode of Caldeiraofurado, Mischief Managed.